Buenas and half a day. I'm Jenny Charlotte Coffman.
I'm Tonnie Guzman.
And welcome to the Gollai Culinary Workshop.
The mission of the Gollai shop, food and cultures, and I'm into something good, is that we share with our people that live here to use food as medicine, because it is medicine. Mm-hmm. And we all know that because we are here in the category of lifestyle disease on the island. We have high rate of diabetes. Yeah. We have cancer rates that are increasing, and the list goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And it's the same old song, right? And we always look to our respected doctors, and rightfully so. But we can always start at the realm of food before we get into that lifestyle crisis, right? Yeah. And with that lifestyle crisis, it comes with the consequences of compromised health. If we choose, or if our lifestyle choices are ones that are mainly processed foods, fast foods, dead foods, right? And so with that being said, we just provide just one access to hopefully be something that could be life-changing, right? Or just maintaining health, right? And so that's just the mission of eat more plants. Eat more plants. I came from a background of farmers, right? And we've always had a ranch, and we've always had pigs, and we've always had cows, and we've always had fields of frijoles, right? Watermelon, and we've always had that abundance, right? And even fresh chicken, fresh everything, utilizing the realm of food sovereignty. Your food system is at your back door, right? That's the best it can be. Yeah. You know where your food source comes from. Yeah. You know what you fed the animals. You know how you've treated them before they sacrificed their life to provide food for your family, right? And you know the whole process from the farm to the table, right? Yeah. And that's the kind of upbringing that I've had until hamburger helper came into play.
Yeah, so that's where it's crazy between both of our upbringings. Yeah. Mine's completely different. Mine was more of the grocery store. We go to the grocery store, and that's where we get our food from. So it's nice to work with Jenny, who has that background and upbringing, and it's like, this is this is how we always cooked. And I'm like, wow, Lemai, first time cooking it here. I did dwindle with a lot of local fruits and vegetables when I was doing the canteen, but to be honest, that was just like my first foot in the door with the plant-based realm. So I've always cooked with meats, cheeses, all that stuff, animal-based products, but when I started the food truck, that was kind of like my first dip into it, and it's been such a wonderful experience, to know, to have a better understanding and a better perception on my relationship with food. And then, meeting Jenny and learning from her, growing from her, it really takes it to that whole other level, like, really depth of, food is nourishment. Every single day you're putting food into your body, and that's what your body thrives on. So it really does matter every single day, what you decide to put into it. And so, all the local, the stuff that you can get fresh, that's from here versus stuff that was like picked months ago and then flown here or shipped here and then you're eating it. I just also learned the, when they cut the lettuce, the nutrient content just the next day after it's been harvested, it does, dwindle down to a lot less nutrients than when it was fresh. So imagine it being picked, harvested like months ago, and then you're eating it like, you know what I mean? So it's crazy. It's been nice. It's really been nice because eating here, I do feel a lot what I put in my body is definitely of quality, and I think Doubt can attest to that you know, it does show the body, you know, like how well you eat, you know, the quality of ingredients that you put into your body really does your body good, you know, energy wise and everything else. Yeah.
Okay, so we have local atdo, which is sea grapes, and atdo is the Chamorro word for sea grapes. And then we've mixed it with julienne strips of daikon, which is local, as well as cucumber, which is local, and local tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. I brought it this morning at the market, and chopped green onions, and finely shredded purple cabbage. And it's not 100% local, but it's at least 99.9% local. And what I've taken is this mixture, and we have a simple tamari, coconut aminos, agave, probably probably some gluten-free soy sauce. And we've taken what we had pad thai a couple of days ago. We've taken that and thrown it in here as well, and a little bit of mirin, and mixed it up. And what we're going to do is just kind of just bathe it in lightly, because you're thinking nice and light, Pacific Asian kind of flavors, right? And I'll go ahead and just nicely fold it around, right? And I just lightly dress, a light dressing, a refreshing dressing, because you don't want something that's too strong. The star here is the umami-ness coming from, is umami-ness even a word? I have no idea. But umami coming from the sea grapes, right? Which is kind of a nice, sweet, briny taste to it, that you know it's fresh from the ocean. And not flown in from somewhere. And just to taste, you know. I trust myself, I trust my tongue. I give my team members opportunity to taste it, because I want them to learn the flavors. I want their opinion. Was it missing, you think? You know, what is it, the umami-ness? Is it the sweetness? Is it the saltiness? You know, does it need more miso? Does it need more agave? Does it need more, you know, lemon, you know? Acid. Yeah. Or apple cider vinegar, right? And that's pretty much it. And it's fresh, it's local, and it's raw. So you're looking at something that will feed your body, and this is this is the version of what we call in the health food movement live food. And especially so when we think about live foods, and we think about the importance of the microbiome, our microbiome, is that in reflection, locally sourced food source have their own microorganisms that support them. That when we consume them, we're eating that native component that we add and is commonly found probably in a local population, because we're consuming the same thing, which could be an indicator for many things, right? And so as simple as that is, we'll get to eat this, and we'll just know as chemistry takes place, when you add the ingredients to the seaweed, it's going to deflate, right? And so all the moisture in the sea grapes is going to be removed and go outside of it, right? And deflates, but still crunchy, still umami, and still delicious, and of course still local.
So today we're gonna just fry up some local okras, some beautiful young local okras. And then we're also going to make a raw red pepper hummus. So we'll get started with the breading. We use gluten-free flour, any kind. I guess for frying, it doesn't really matter what kind of gluten-free flour you use. I think more with the baking, that's where it gets a little technical with the type of flour you use. So I just use it's 1-to-1. So I just use about a cup gluten-free flour and then about a cup of the corn flour or masa harina. And then we have some basic seasonings, onion powder, paprika, and garlic powder, about a teaspoon of each. Go ahead and throw it in there. And then just some black pepper to give the dredging a little bit of flavor. So this one, about a teaspoon as well. So you just mix it all up. And then I pre-made this. This is kind of our substitute for egg wash. You know, when you're frying and you want to get the flour to stick, you use beat up eggs. But to veganize it, we use flax meal. So we just take some flax meal. This one, since it's sat, it got a little bit more pasty. So I'm going to actually add some more water to it because you don't want it too pasty like how it is right now. But if you're going to do it fresh, not let it sit a little bit, then it's about 3 parts water to 1 part flax meal. So just depending on the size, the amount of that you're frying, it determines how much. So let's say 1 cup of water, then you do 1/3 of flax meal. Yeah. So it should look a little bit more on the runny side here, and this would be our egg wash replacement. So a flax wash, I guess. So that's the kind of consistency you want from the flax meal mixture. And then this one here is just coconut milk and a little bit of local lemon. It's our buttermilk component of the frying process. So we'll just go ahead and throw some in here. And we like to double dredge just to get that extra crispy batter on there. So we put it in the buttermilk first, then the flour, and then kind of just take the hands and dust off the flour. And then I'm going to throw it into this egg wash or non-egg wash, flax wash. And I'll go ahead and preheat my oil too. And then for the fresh, like this raw hummus, we use what is it? Another kind of extra virgin olive oil. Yeah. And then I want to try and get as much flax wash as possible out. And then just one by one kind of put it back into the bowl, the dredging flour bowl. Okay. You can actually cut this out, but I'm going to add a little bit more water because it's a little too thick. A trick I learned to know if you don't have a thermometer, to know when your oil is ready, is just throw, probably not ready yet because I just turned it on, but throw like just a little bit of either flour or a little, this was just some egg wash and that sat in the flour. So when I feel like I think it's going to be ready, I'm going to throw this in just to check. And when you throw it in, it should just drop down and float right back up. So right when it floats back up, that's when you know, okay, my oil's ready. So we did the test drop, and so now it's good to go. Kind of do one at a time. Ooh, yeah. So frying, of course, you don't want to overcrowd the pan. just so that they can equally cook and brown. You don't want to cook it too long. I noticed when I cooked it a little longer, the okra shrunk. And then the breading was like nice and fat. Yeah, I'll just finish this off. And then we'll get going on the hummus. So this is the raw red pepper hummus we make here at Fu'una Cultures. We have some cauliflower, bell peppers, and zucchini as our main ingredient components. For the recipe, a small one, we use about 3 zucchinis, or actually right here we use 1 zucchini, a head of cauliflower, and 2 bell peppers. We got a cup of lemon, some black salt to taste. We have about 6 grams of cumin, a half cup of oil, an ounce of garlic, and then a cup and a half of tahini. And so that's all the ingredients for this raw red pepper hummus. So we're gonna take all the ingredients, and it's very simple. You just put all your ingredients in the blender. So. Right. And then all the garlic. And then all the cumin. And then the black pepper, the black salt we're gonna save to taste. And for the liquid, I'm just gonna do a little bit of each and then kind of pour it in as it's blending all together. So just a little bit to get it working. This is tahini. It's pretty much ground up blended sesame seeds, roasted sesame seeds. It adds a nice creamy factor to vegan dishes. And then this is local fresh squeezed lemon juice. All right, and then we put it. And the water content from all the vegetables, it really just helps work it all together. That's why you don't need to, you're not seeing any kind of water here. It's all just real concentrate of liquid ingredients. The thing about raw, Jenny taught me, is that also when you're blending, you want to be mindful of the heat that's generated, when you're blending, because it will, especially with a high-speed blender like this, it will start to heat up, and then you cannot call it raw anymore. He makes soup. So we just lightly. I think I need a bigger bowl though. Okay, now we can meld it all. I know I can already tell that I didn't blend it down too much, but this might be how it turns out at your house without a high-speed blender. And then I didn't add the salt just yet, just because I want to blend it and then kind of to taste everything. So just do maybe like a teaspoon at a time until we get there. Yeah. And then this one, when you make it sit overnight in the fridge and let it chill out in the fridge, it'll get a lot more like of a hummus consistency, where it's a little bit more on the thick side. Since it's we're making it fresh right now, it's of course not settled when it gets cold. About a half teaspoon. A teaspoon and a half is what I put so far. And we do use black salt a lot more in our recipes here at Fuuna Cultures, just because of the nutrient content. Yeah, the first time I tried this hummus was in Jenny's raw collard wrap. Oh my God, it was so good. It was like flavors just exploding all over the place with all the different raw stuff she had in the wrap, and then this hummus to like complete it all. Oh man, it was so good. Yep. And there we go.
So the whole mission of providing access for the people of Guam to healthier options in terms of plant-based food system. Literally, how can we connect? How can we connect the people to this kind of lifestyle? Because it is a lifestyle when you choose to eat more plants, right? Because you have to incorporate, if you want to eat more plants, well, you have to do more things in your life that so that you have access to plants. And so we're just one of those access to whole food plant-based. And to connect the people, you have to take these raw ingredients and create something that they can connect with, right? And the first thing they connect with is, of course, the local ingredients, right? And so we have a recipe that includes a majority of the vegetables in it is locally sourced. And that will include the local squash and local frijoles, right? We have taro, fresh local taro, jackfruit. Even the red onion is locally sourced, from the tips to the actual bulb, right, that we incorporate. And of course, every plant has a protein component to it, right? But we're always so focused on the quality of the protein. And so since we're whole food plant-based, we've supplemented with protein sources that are available at your market. And it's beyond meat, right? Which is a very phenomenal product out there that can help connect a person that's doing the transition from a SAD diet, which is a standard American diet, right, to a whole food plant-based. And this is one of the transition components that we have, that we use in order to connect people with to eating more plants. And then also and also these are both non-GMO, which is something that we emphasize when we choose our ingredients. And so it's not genetically modified. And this protein source here is a non-GMO soy protein source, which mimics the texture of chicken, right? Let's see what else goes into this component. So many things, and they're not all here. We have a local cabbage, right? I accidentally threw in some zucchini. My bad. And what else is in here? I told you jackfruit. So that's pretty much what we have, here today, as well as even the sweet potato. The orange sweet potato is locally sourced, and we've also incorporated some squash blossoms in the recipe. And as well as some cigarizas and some taro leaves. And I think that's about it. Like any kind of concept of, for those that know the concept of shepherd's pie or a savory kind of pot pie, what was the other thing? The chickenella king component. It's that sort of creamy, comfy, cozy, gravy filled with all these local vegetables that we just mentioned, with the hardiness from the Beyond Meat as well as the Mindful Chicken product, right? And so everything comes together in a beautiful gravy, right? And with maybe a little bit of coconut milk as well, or cream, just to add a little bit of sweetness, but not taking, we're not building an a la king kind of thing. So we have sort of like a white gravy with thyme and oregano components, all encompassing and blanketing all these delicious prepped ingredients. And you just take it for what it is. And we also incorporated mushrooms, which is not local, but it is organic. And that's kind of like the hierarchy of things that we do here in the island of Guam. Is we've given so many choices. We can use we have to go to all those different choices to create our food system, right? Go to the market, go to the farmers, go to the local grocery store, and so your back door. So with that being said, it's your basic stir fry, and I'm going to take a wok. And I'm going to be cooking for a standard of, like, your small family, 2 to 4 people, right? And so you would probably want half a pound of the Beyond Meat product, and maybe about, I would say, a half a cup of Mindful Chicken, right? And there's no rules to this. It's what you have in your refrigerator. It's what you have on hand. You can use any kind of vegetables. We decided that this will be a sustainable, locally sourced recipe to share with the Guam Humanities viewers, right? And so, just like in any stir fry, you get your pan heated up, and keep all plastic components away from the heat because it will melt. And just enough oil to get things all started. And I don't like measuring things, but I do with big recipes, because I'll be standing there tasting all day, right? And Tonnie's really good about standardizing. Thank you, Tonnie girl. And so I always eyeball it. This to me is about, maybe 5 cloves minced. Use your judgment. If you don't like garlic, you don't have to use it. You can use coconut oil. You can use, I don't like to use soy oil. I like to use coconut oil, a mixture of olive oil as well. That's pretty much, and sesame oil with the Korean Asian components that we like to use. And you just take the garlic and you just saute it, your standard sauteing. And that's the one thing that we're going to be doing. Sorry about that. That's the one thing we're going to be doing here at the shop, is offering, hopefully one day when things get as normal as we can get to normal, or look what the new normalcy is. We like to be, part of our mission is to offer workshops, right? Okay, and you never really you don't want to intentionally burn, or you don't want to burn garlic unintentionally. Intentionally is good if you want a roasty kind of flavor. And I'll put a little ginger, right, as well. And just a little bit of ginger. Ginger is always really nice. But we're not going with a whole ginger component. And you stir everything pretty much together. Get the meat all started. Until it's all nice and cooked. And what I like to do with these layers is actually cook each vegetable by itself, right? But that's not necessary. That's just my method. And so, and very commonly used here and learned from our team members, right? Because each vegetable has a certain point and duration to cook to get it to where it's still al dente, right? And not mushy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with these. After this is cooked, I'm going to put it in a bowl. And I'm going to ultimately just get everything mixed together. Get some room there. And you want to add onions? Add onions. Yeah, we have some onions, and we're going to add, and it hasn't been added to our dish. If you don't want onions, don't add onions. Some people are crybabies about onions. Literally. I'm a crybaby. I always cry every time I cut onions. Some stronger than others. Because this is kind of like a savory stew, right? You kind of want things to fit on a spoon or a fork. You don't want too much of a big chunk, right? At least that's my thinking, right? And so since I'm the cook, I'm in charge. Okay. So with that being said, just be mindful about the way you want your textures to come together as you spoon it onto your mouth. Okay. And that's fine, because, you know, it's going to cook for about 20 minutes, you know, in a temperature of about 425 or so. So everything can meld together. You get something like this, or frijoles. Let's get some frijoles in there. And again, the amount, eyeball it. Maybe take a half a cup, a quarter cup of frijoles, more or less. You don't want to overcook it. You just want to blanch it, because it's going to obtain heat and cook some more in the baking process of this wonderful camuti ranchera. We'll call it a ranchera. Camuti manhiet lupai. That's what we'll call it. And taro, you know, it was up there. I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a good component. I love taro. We don't get access to taro outside the local food stands and the neighbor, you know, down the street, or Uncle Roki, you know, growing in Malesu, you know. If you don't know people and you don't know about the market, it's not something you would commonly find at Payless, right? And so every time I go up there, I'm just so reminded of the beauty of taro. And taking it to more than just the traditional stuff, right? You can utilize it, traditional meaning like our Gollai Hagåtña, right? Which is wonderful, I love it. You can incorporate it in daily meals that you would maybe use celery for, maybe try to replace it with some taro stems, right? That's what I love about cooking. There's just, you know, there are parameters given, right? But there's so many things that you can, there's no right or wrong, it's just different, you know? Yeah, you can burn things, and yes, things taste terrible. But even that, you know, something that can be burnt is somebody else's, like, joy. Like, burnt rice can be turned into Korean rice chips, right? Right? And not thrown away. And even with the squash, you don't want to overcook it. You just want to give it a little nice sear. And if you don't want to do that individually, then don't do it. Just fuck everything together, you know? Amazing stuff at different stages. Young stage, use it in curries, use it in dishes like this, use it in this is the young jackfruit. And I love the ripe jackfruit as well. We take young jackfruit and harvest it and get it down to, you know, its ingredient, and we take it and slowly, for like, gosh, 3 hours, slowly in a slow oven for 3 hours, just basting in a Mexican traditional marinade, right? Okay. And so you take everything like this, and then you want to create a gravy. If you have a favorite gravy, hallelujah. We have a gravy that we've used for a recipe. And instead of throwing it out, we're going to add it to this. And that's one thing that we promote here, is that reusing components and lessening the food waste, right? Because there's a lot of food waste that ends up in the landfill. So one of the ways we can reduce as a community is to reduce our food waste. And so instead of it going bad or going just going bad or going into the system, we reuse it until there is no more. So we're going to do that. And so just use your standard gravy. Go on the internet and Google it, standard gravy, standard brown gravy, standard traditional gravy. It's your basic, 1 cup of flour to water. You want to go ahead and eye it and let the flour and the salt and the seasonings all come together and thicken like a gravy. That's your basic gravy kind of recipe. And we've pretty much taken that and added mushrooms and thyme, Tawny girl, and oregano, your traditional kind of savory, shiitake broth, and the house shiitake broth, which gives again that umami, which once would be thrown away, we try to reuse and close that cycle, right? We do everything that we can. We're not perfect, but we try, right? And so with that being said, you take everything and you mix it all up. We have some, gravy already made. And for those that really want this gravy recipe, you can make the request, and we're happy to give you down to, a very 1 cup portion of the flour and make it from there. And then, they can have access to that. We'd be happy to give them the recipe. And it's really thick, right? And you want this to be not soupy, but definitely like stew-like, right? And you have this really hearty, savory, fresh umami dish. And like I said, because of the gravy and because of the creaminess and the savoriness, again, this is in the comfort food category. And this is taking local ingredients and connecting it with the local people and what's available. And then connecting them to something. You can even go to naktak if you want, right? So there's no rules to this. But since we have this delicious savory brown gravy, we decided to go and more on what one would probably, traditionally, like I said earlier, call it a pot pie. So kind of like that concept, that chicken pot pie concept, using locally sourced vegetables and with a delicious locally sourced sweet potato mash on top, and placed in the oven for about 20 minutes, right, at 400 degrees. And we've even tossed some squash blossoms in the layer as well. Okay, so you want to get this, and then you get your pan, depending on how much you're cooking or how many people you're cooking for. Again, this could probably feed about anywhere from 2 people if you eat really, if you're a hearty eater, but 4 people as a side. And you would dump everything in a pan. You can use a cast iron pan, you can use a cake pan, you could use a bread pan, but you want something the size of the pan, the depth of the pan, to be enough to fill what you've cooked, but also leave room for the little bit of gravy. Oops, sorry about that. Sometimes you have mortality, right? And so with that being said, you kind of fit it in there. And so there you go. The sauce and the the ingredients are placed together, and we're going to take, this is the kamuti mash. And once you mash it up, add all the ingredients, you have this delicious mash that I do. What I do is just take it into a scooper like this, and then ultimately connect the dots together, or the gaps together. Doesn't that look pretty already? Okay, and I gotta say, as far as flavor goes, and I'm not sure what variety of sweet potatoes this is, but it's definitely grown local, because I spoke to the local food grower, and it's freaking phenomenal. It's really creamy, much creamier, and doesn't absorb water the way the imported ones do, and it maintains a really nice creamy texture. I'm like, sweet potato pie sounds really good about now in terms of creating one with these local sweet potatoes. There we go. And you just kind of connect it together, right? And you preheat your oven at 400 degrees. When it's ready, you pop it in and you bake it. Ooh, I forgot to put the layers of flowers. Anyways, so I would take the flowers and nip it at the base and just place a star pattern right at the top of the stew topping. Okay, and so this the first pie I did has the squash blossoms, and so then I placed the mash kamuti on top. And I also, one of the things that I love about making mash, if I'm making lemai mash or kamuti mash or Yukon potato mash, whatever's available, I love using, of course, the key ingredient is coconut milk. For me, at least. Okay, so basically that's it. And then you place it in a oven at 400 degrees and voila.
And join us for our live segment of this series where we will be doing some local coconut yogurt, turning it into ice cream, and then also a fresh turmeric elixir tea.
Yep, and that's on March 20th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this is a live segment of
the Gollai Culinary Workshop.